thoughts woke up thinking about SGs, um, which had me thinking about Les Paul Juniors, Les Paul Specials. My favorite guitars in the world. That's Les in that order. Les Paul Juniors, then Les Paul Specials, and then SG uh, Specials, and the occasional SG Standard. Um, anyway, starting off with this 1961 slab body Junior. Some folks would say that by 61 they were SGs, but there is a silkscreen logo identifying it as the Les Paul Junior. We know that 1958, tail end of 58, middle of 58, Juniors went from being single cutaway to double cutaway, red. TV model single pickups, obviously that limed finish that was so popular with furniture makers at the time. Um, Very cool example of a double cutaway, late Les Paul Jr., 1961. Um, this is a special that's had a really hard life. Um, it was a sample guitar for the Southwest rep, Gibson guitar rep. Um, it belonged to a left-handed guitarist for many years, and you can see the wear and the strap button from when it was left-handed. Also, you can see the plugged holes from when it was used left-handed. Fortunately, the controls were never flipped, and there was no silliness done to the stop tailpiece. The pickguard was adjusted for left-handed, and it would look so goofy. When I acquired the guitar, I just took it off. Again, this is an interesting guitar. It still has the Les Paul silk screen on it. Serial number takes it to the very tail end of 62. Some folks have accused it of being a 63. I'd call it a 62. So, when that shift went to the SGs, this is probably the most startling change. Are both guitars in frame? Yeah. Here you have an SG special. So you have this would have been called an SG special without the silkscreen, and so now we have what we traditionally call an SG. Same pickup configuration, two P90s, top tailpiece. You notice by this time the stop tailpiece is compensated. Instead of having it off on an angle, it's straight, and the compensation is in the bridge. A lot lighter guitar. Really nice shape. Not a lot of excuses for this guitar. The exact opposite of this guitar. This guitar has a lot of stories to tell. I suspect this only has about a third of the stories to tell about where it had been and what it's seen. Where to my mind this gets really interested is that this is 65. So I'm going to move things around a little bit. This is just here just because I had a hook. It's a 57 ES 225, two P90s. I love the Les Paul style tailpiece on it. So you've got this guitar, which is a 68 SG Standard. These pickups are not original. I'm not really sure where they came from. They shouldn't have pickup surrounds on them, but they do. Makes the guitar kind of hard to get a low action on. You're constantly running into this. Unfortunately, there's 8 extra holes in the pickguard because of these surrounds. We've contemplated taking those off so we can lower the pickups to get a decent action on it. But the significant thing is the batwing pickguard. So instead of having pickups mounted into the body, you've got them kind of into this pickguard here. I don't know. I was never a huge fan of looking at the batwing pickguard. Um, but the other significant thing about this guitar structurally is look at the neck joint. This elongated heel that doesn't have a lot of connection to the body. Usually, when Gibson did things, I thought in terms of like, oh, they put a volute on because the headstocks were breaking off all the time. But I don't really see what the logic of this is. Maybe somebody can start posting on the video, sharing their thoughts about why they went from this neck joint or went to that from this. Neither one of them seems particularly solid to me. I mean, there is a little bit more of the fingerboard going over the body here, but it feels to me like it's just hanging out there, just waiting to break, as opposed to here it seems closer to the body. Does it make sense to you, Leonard?
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, in a hey, that doesn't make any sense kind of way.
Yeah.
So I'm just showing you guitars, you know, not really adding a lot to the discussion about them, other than say, hey, here's some guitars, vintage Gibsons. The thought I was having about SGs is that juniors were made as a student kind of guitar or an entry-level guitar, and they didn't get a lot of traction with well-known players that I'm aware of until Leslie West stepped on the stage at Woodstock with one. And after that, they started getting picked up by a lot of players. Realized that there was a lot of tone, a lot of sound you could get out of a junior. SG's a little bit of a different connection to players. I mean, just if I was just going to go off the top of my head, people playing SGs that weren't really vintage when they were being played. People like Garcia having an SG at Woodstock, Pete Townsend using SG specials that were essentially new guitars. The guitar player in the blue chair, if that counts. Admittedly, Cipollina had an SG, but it was an older one. Quicksilver. Big Brother and the Holding Company using SGs, probably older ones. But the SG really seemed to, Carlos Santana using an SG, Frank Zappa using an SG. Robbie Krieger, right? The Doors, I mean, starting with a special, going to a standard Batwings standard like this. So the SG seemed to like kind of caught more of the imagination of fairly established guitar players a lot quicker than the juniors did. Maybe it was the time, maybe it was harder to find juniors around that time in the 60s, because they would have been used and not available. So that's it. I think I've rambled enough for one video. I'll just pull them up one more time. 61, Les Paul Jr., silk screen. This one is kind of interesting in that it had the neck broken, 1, 2, 3 different places. This is actually a graft onto the neck. So it's a good guitar to take out and gig with, because if you drop it and break the neck, it's just one more break in the neck. This 62, very late 62, I'm going to call it a Les Paul Special because it still does have the logo, even though folks are going to want to say, no, it's actually an SG. Lived its life again as a left-handed guitar for many years. It's been back to right-handed. There's all these holes in the back, and I've been trying to figure out why they are there. Maybe a botched neck reset on it, because there's no break whatsoever to the neck. Nothing, there's nowhere where you look at it and see any breaks. And maybe somebody had some silliness that happened when they tried to do a neck reset. 1965 SG Special, in really nice shape. No excuses guitar. and a 68 SG Standard, unoriginal strap buttons. If we took this off, you'd see an unoriginal wire harness, unoriginal pickups with added surrounds, obviously unoriginal tuners, Grover Rotomatics, kind of a crack in the neck here. But it's a cool guitar. I like it. Got nice vibe, nice mojo. I'm thinking about a video. Maybe I'll do it next week of like weighing a bunch of juniors, and it'll be like a contest. We'll see like what's the lightest junior. We'll weigh the SGs maybe if we do it. They won't count though. They'll be like that'd be cheating. So anyway, Brian, acousticmusic.org, Guitars for Trade. Always love talking about guitars, showing guitars. It's Thursday. I have no idea when you'll ever see this video, but if you see it and it's near a weekend, have a great weekend.